and excited to introduce our guest today, Jason Starwalker Organic Farms. And Jason, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're
So,
doing great,
yeah,
thanks.
it's not snowing, so we're doing good.
So, Jason, if you would care to give our listeners some background, where are you and tell us about your operation?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, we're based in Northern California, and what a lot of people consider Northern California would probably be Sacramento, but we're still another 4.5 hours north of Sacramento, right on the Oregon border, really, essentially. And we have a beautiful little valley called Scott Valley that there's not very many people that live here, and there's a lot of farming, and so we're a big part of that. We are a third generation farm, so my grandparents bought the farm in the early 70s. My parents took over by default because they got out of college and didn't have a general direction. They both had degrees, and my dad had a master's, and for whatever reason they ended up back at the farm, and they stayed here. And so they took over back in the mid 70s, and then about 12 years ago, my wife and I came back, and we took over the operation from them. So we've been rapidly growing. Our original farm that my grandparents bought in the 70s was had about 200 acres of farm ground and about 800 acres of grazing hill ground, and we've expanded since then, since we took over 12 years ago, and we're roughly about 1,200, 1,300 acres of farm ground and about 2,500 acres of grazing hill ground. So we've expanded pretty rapidly, and we've got a pretty sizable cattle herd, and we're pretty sizable pig herd too. So we're certified organic, been certified organic for roughly 40 years now. So that's our big claim to fame, I guess, is being organic for that long. And most recently got a regenerative organic certification, which is a whole nother aspect of what we do. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and we love what we do.
And Jason, for those of us that aren't really ag educated, for any of our listeners that aren't quite sure, what's the difference between organic farming and just the regular farming that you see here in the Northern Plains?
Yeah, great question. Organic is, I mean, I shouldn't say it's a new thing, but like I say, we've been organic for 40 years. But back when my parents originally went organic, they were kind of on the fringe. It was the kind of the hippie movement, I guess, maybe. And nowadays, I think organic farming really just means, no pesticides, no herbicides. No medications in the animals. Pretty much just trying to utilize the best you can with your soil. Taking care of your animals in whatever way you can. That doesn't mean you're having to, put a lot of inputs into them. It's not that we can't. Those animals just would end up not being, they'd have to go to a conventional market, which is fine. But all of our crops, all of our range ground, everything is all certified organic. And, we just try to put least amount of inputs. Not that we can't put inputs, chicken manure and some other things, compost teas and stuff we do. But it people say we get less yields than conventional, but we've had really good results, and we seem to do really well on the organic side, and our markets really show that. We sell out of our meat and our pork and our hay every year.
Now, is it more expensive to farm organically, or is it a little cheaper?
Well, it's interesting because on the side of inputs, it's definitely cheaper. We don't spend a ton of money on, like I say, the herbicides and pesticides and the fertilizers and stuff like that. But I would say that maybe our crops aren't as clean as maybe a conventional crop, but our markets don't really, that doesn't bother us. If there's some weeds or some grasses in our hay, that's what our customers want. They basically want that clean organic hay, and My opinion is, I'm obviously biased, but I think it's better for the soil, and I think it's good for the animals as well. So the inputs are a little different, and sometimes it affects yields by not being able to put some of those things on your crop.
Jason, there's so many things to ask. One of the questions I have is, what's your growing season like in Northern California? I mean, we forget as you go from the top of the state to the south how long and how many different climate changes can happen within the state of California. But what's it like where you're at?
Yeah, that's a great question because Southern California, I think they pretty much farm year round, and they have a whole different season than us. We are basically we can get out on the fields usually in April, start some spring planting, some spring work, and then our season pretty much is over by October 1st. Sometimes we can carry into October a little bit. This October's been very warm and sunny, and so we've been able to do a little bit more in the fields. But most of the time, by October 1st or mid October, we're done. Rains start coming in. It's hard to get out in the fields, and we don't get a lot of snow here. We might get some accumulation here and there, but it doesn't stick around for long. But we do get our full, we get all of our seasons. We get a really nice spring, a really nice fall, and a good winter, and a very hot summer, unfortunately.
And what are you raising within your climate zone? You know, where we live, we're so very diversified with a variety of not only small grains, corn and soybeans, to some non-traditional crops like sugar beets, potatoes, even mint. But I would venture a guess your diversification is very different from ours.
Yeah, for sure. So we primarily do hay in this area. We do a little bit of grain. I do raise grain for my pigs, but our primary crop is alfalfa and grass. So we're growing a lot of grass for the cattle. We're growing a lot of alfalfa. My higher end alfalfa goes to dairies, and then anything that doesn't quite meet dairy standards, runs through my cattle. And we do a lot of silage here. It does really well in the animals, so we put up a lot of silage early in the season, and then sometimes again late in the season. But we're primarily grain and alfalfa and hay crops here. Every once in a while, we do some cover crops, but every once in a while somebody will try some sunflowers or different thing than that. But in our neck of the woods, you have to go about 2 or 3 hours south, and then you get into the rice country and the nuts and stuff like that. We don't really have the climate for that up here, but the hay grows. I
Mhm.
mean, we're renowned for our mountain grass hay up here, and we send it all over the state of California and all over the West, really.
I'm looking forward to asking more questions about that and so much more, especially as you said, grandma, grandpa, and mom and dad were kind of in that hippie movement of organics, but that's not as hippie as someone might think. So when we come back, I want to
Exactly.
continue to ask some of those questions of Jason. He is with Star Walker Organic Farms in Northern California, and we have the opportunity to visit with him about what they do and this whole regenerative thing. It's a word that we all talk about frequently in agriculture, and what does it mean to him? So we'll be right back with your questions and more after this. We're joined today by Jason Starwalker. He is with Starwalker Ranch, or excuse me, Starwalker Organic Farms, and they are in Northern California. And okay, Jason, a couple of things. One of them was we talked about the farm being organic for 40 years. So there's really no need to ask about the transition to that. You've been doing it. And how did that start out for grandma and grandpa? Like you said, they maybe were thought to be a little bit of the hippies before people caught on to what you were doing.
Yeah, so back when my parents decided to go organic, it was very fringe, and they were, I think, probably one of the first 20 or 30 in the state of California farms that went organic. Since then it's obviously become very popular. There's farms all over the country doing it, and big scale all over the country. When we took over in 2012, we decided to diversify a little bit. When I was really young, we had some cattle and we got rid of them. We did herbs and spices. We did a lot of kind of more intensive crops when I was younger: potatoes, corn. When we took over, we really wanted to focus on the animal side of the agriculture, and so we started building our cattle herd back up again. We started building our pig herd back up. And that was kind of our big focus. We started doing direct to consumer in 2020. That was a big time for us. We were able to do really well on the direct to consumer side. Um, and all of our products are all organic. There's a lot of people who do mixed operations. We just decided from the beginning to do everything across the board organic. Easier for paperwork, easier for us as farm operation and employees and everything. And so we've grown pretty rapidly in our pork and our beef sales online, and we actually recently bought a processing plant so we can actually have full control of the operation from start to finish. And we're getting into retail with some of our products, so that's really fun. But I think organic nowadays versus when my parents started, it's more mainstream. People seek it out. People are looking for it. There's pretty much all the products across the board in the supermarket. You can get organic, and I think those, it's a different clientele sometimes, but those are the people that really love our products and support us, and we love what we do on the organic side as well.
When I go to your website and I'm looking at starwalkerorganicfarms.com, so for those of you who have the internet close by, check them out. And I'm on the best-selling products list. They look great. We eat with our eyes, and all the cuts that you have there are excellent, from whole cow beef bundles down to smaller packaging, such as just a steak and bacon delivery box. Now, what I wanted to ask, and I heard you say this, I just want to clarify. Organic with livestock means you're not treating, so you're not worried about vaccinations, et cetera, because you have good herd health. Your animals are generally in very good health. But if an animal got sick, if you had to treat with an antibiotic or anything like that, then you have a process, right, to take them out of the organic lineup, you might say, and move them over to a conventional market, correct? Because you want to make sure that that animal still gets treated well. They just might not fit your operation. Would that be fair?
Yeah, you're 100% right. So we have a protocol in our organic system plan. And basically, that says if we have a sick animal, we treat it, we tag it
Mhm.
differently so that we know that it's been treated, and then we usually just sell that into a conventional market. So I have, there's
Sure.
auction yards or other people that want those animals. So we definitely make sure we take care of the animals. We don't want sick animals either. We don't want to see them die. So we take care of the animals, and they just go into a different market, and we make sure we tag them and keep really good records so that when we have our organic inspections, that they can see how we treated the animal and where that animal went.
Jason, you made mention of, you not only have had the organic um, certification, but now there is a organic regenerative certification. What does that entail? And what comes to mind for me is thinking about, you know, using manure on your fields instead of synthetic fertilizers, et cetera. But it's probably more than that. What am I missing?
Yeah, no, that's actually a great question because the regenerative organic, well, it's not. So what we are is we're certified regenerative organic, and that's it's a whole different certification. There's also other regenerative certifications you can get, but we're actually the first regenerative organic certified pork and beef producer in the U.S., which is pretty cool. There is some outside of the country beef producers, but being the first is has been great. We've gotten a lot of notoriety, and what I feel like regenerative, the most important thing about it, I mean, these are practices we've been doing for a lot of years, being organic, but at the end of the
Mhm.
day, it's really about the soil. If we don't have good soil, if we're not treating our soil right, we're not going to be able to grow the products. We're not going to be able to feed the animals. So at the end of the day, my whole heart goes into regenerative and thinking, how can we better the soil? How can we utilize animals to run around the soil to spread manure? How can we utilize farming practices or cover crops? There's a plethora of things that we have in our playbook that we can use to keep that soil health. And I think really the more we can do that, the more people can, whether they're conventional, organic, the more they can think about how we can take care of the soil and taking care of all the microrhizobi and all the living life that's below the soil. If we have good soil, good life below the soil, we're going to have good plant life. If we have good plant life, we're going to have good, healthy animals.
Okay, I hope I asked this question well because we live in the Red River Valley of North Dakota, where we're on the bottom of an ancient lake, glacial lake, and we have feet of topsoil, but not everybody does. And so, for you, are animals your cattle and your pork or your pigs, are they only grazing in pasture or are they grazing on cropland so you can help see reduce compaction in your soil layers? Or what is your soil layer like?
Yeah, we have great soil here too. We've got a little valley, and our soils for the most part are really great. But we rotate our cattle around, and our pigs around on different paddocks all the time. We're moving our cattle during the summer growing months. We're moving them every couple days. So we're able to spread the manure around. We're able to, that's less impact on the grass. We usually have a 45-day rotation, so we're not back on the same grass for about another 45 days. Gives the grass chance to get some water and grow back up, and be healthy basically. But yeah, I mean, I think that each area is going to be a little bit different when it comes to taking care of your soil, what you need to do, how you need to do it. We try to utilize cover crops like I mentioned earlier, because the more diverse plant life you have, the more
Hmm.
the more that's going to help with your soil. It's going to bring things that are in need in your soil. And then certain plants utilize what's in the soil differently. So whether you have perfect soil or marginal soil, there's always some plants that utilize it differently. And understanding what that is for your area and your soil type is important, and trying to offer that up, for the soil and also for the animals.
Okay, this might sound kind of silly, but I heard you say something when we were talking about manure management. I want to say you mentioned composting and teas, and that's not a tea that's in a to-go cup, if I'm not mistaken.
You're exactly right. So yeah, compost tea is basically taking uh, any minerals that you want to add to your plants or your soil, and essentially a manure base, and you basically let it act as a tea bag in a bunch of water, and that product then can be sprayed foliar. So basically, you're getting a mist out there, and you're putting on the leaves of the plant, and it puts those nutrients directly into the plant, and it helps by being able to target an exact problem that you might have. Like, let's say you're low on iron, or have you some deficiency, magnesium, something. You can actually add that to your compost tea and then go spray it out in the fields, and then that the plants absorb it, and that gets you what you need. So it's kind of a newer thing, but I think a lot of people are really taking it to heart, and understanding what it can do for your plants.
So, Jason, I have a copy of your newsletter, and I've been kind of scrolling through that as well today. Um, when you started your newsletter, my guess is you were there to educate and inform your customers. But do your customers now ask you questions that make great topics of discussion in your newsletter? And where can people find that, by the way?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think that, obviously, social media is the best way to interact with us. We're active on that, and we get questions all the time. We try to help answer them. Sometimes we even make videos to address the questions. Um, if people have specific questions on our newsletter or anything on the website, there's an email link. I think it's info@starwalkerorganicfarms.com. But I think that's the best way to interact with us and get a hold of us. Also, our social media, we've got Instagram, TikTok, and those are really popular, and we can do a lot of communication with our customer base, and maybe even people that aren't our customer base yet but want to hear more about what we're doing, and understand it.
And
Are,
Jason, oh, sorry, go ahead,
Go
Bridget.
ahead, Dean.
I was going to
No,
say,
go ahead. We've got a 1 second delay between us that sometimes
right.
hurts.
Jason, less than 3% of farming in the United States is organic. So obviously, it's increased since 2021, but still, obviously, it's in the minority. So it can't be that easy to do. What is the biggest hurdle that you've had to overcome uh, being all organic?
Yeah, that's another great question. There's been many hurdles over the years. I think the difference with organic and conventional is in conventional agriculture, there's a lot of times there's a silver bullet for a problem you might have. You might, have a pest problem or a weed problem, and the conventional agriculture has got really good at figuring out how we can solve those problems. Well, in organic, we don't have any silver bullets to solve problems. We kind of have to go back to basics and figure out what might be the root cause of that problem. Is it a deficiency in the soil? Is it a water issue? Is it like a fertilizer issue? And we kind of have to do a little bit of investigation and then trial and error. So I mean, I would say that the biggest hang up is just trying to take the time to figure out what we need to do, how to address problems, and then the steps to do it. That might take a couple years to get it figured out. It might take some trial and error on some different crops to realize what works for a certain area or what works for a certain soil type. So I mean, when you do trial and error, you're going to naturally lose a little bit of money, and it's going to be a learning. But the cool thing is there's a great community in the organic world, and there's definitely people you can talk to that have some experience, whether it's in plants or animal agriculture side of it. And so I mean, being able to reference those people and see how they've done it, and duplicate that. I think at the end of the day, I understand organic is a small percentage of the overall agriculture operation, and it's probably never going to be fully organic, but the demand is there. It's year after year, people are demanding the products we have and other organic producers have, and so I think that if we can help as a whole farming community, understand maybe some of the practices that organic people are doing or regenerative people are doing, and apply some of those on conventional farms to not only help the soil, but also to be able to use less synthetic fertilizers and chemicals. That would be great. I don't expect everybody to do that, but I understand that everybody's got to make a living, and but we do have a lot of hurdles to overcome, and I think it's just trial and error. That's what gets us through.
I think there's so many places for a variety of markets within ag, whether we're conventional, whether we're regenerative or organic, et cetera. There's always a place for someone in this market, is what I can see. And I think you really embody that with Star Walker Organic Farm.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, we've definitely found our niche, and we love what we do, and we get a ton of support, and we obviously are going to keep chugging away and pumping out some great products for people to enjoy.
All right. Well, Jason, if anybody wants to get a hold of you or order some of your wonderful products, and I'm online here looking at it right now. I guess your beef jerky is out of this world. So
Yeah,
Bridget and I
it's hard.
we might have to make an order here.
It's hard to host a radio show when you're online shopping your
I
guest
know, right?
website.
Exactly. I'm like, come on, Bridget. So Jason,
I know.
how can people get a hold of you, or if they're interested in? And I'm guessing you ship anywhere in the U.S., correct?
Yeah, we ship nationwide, and all of our frozen products, our meat, they ship next day. Our jerky ships regular, it doesn't have to be frozen, so we're able to extend our shipping time on that. But yeah, we can. Our website's the best, starwalkerorganicfarms.com. You can see everything we do there. We also, like I mentioned earlier, we have our social media. We got Instagram, Star Walker Farms. I think our TikTok is Star Walker Farm Life. But yeah, I think there's plenty of avenues there where you can connect with us, ask questions, get information, look at our products. We just released our jerky into Sprouts nationwide, so that's kind of fun. We're on the shelves all over the country. And yeah, our jerky's been very popular. It's flying off the shelves, and we like I say, we've got a bunch more products to come that we're going to be releasing now that we have our own processing plant. We're able to really get creative, and so there's going to be some fun things coming out here in the next few months.
just in time for Christmas. Bridget, hint,
Yes.
hint, hint.
I got that one.
All right. Well, Jason, thank you so much for joining us today. And again, if you want to get a hold of Jason, just log on to his website there. Boy, yeah, that jerky looks unbelievable. All right, yeah, we're going to have to order that. So we've got a short break here. We'll come back with a recap of the weather, hit a couple of ag topics. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.